that as far as would be a bit hazy there. Now, the National Action Network owes the government $800,000 in payroll taxes. That has been paid off, and they now, every week, that money is coming out there. Said the group's debt will soon be paid off thanks to more than $1 million raised. And might add there, in the process of raising more money as the days go on here, because it is the opinion of this Mike that the National Action Network is one of the freedom-fighting organizations in all of America, and particularly for African American people, other people of color, etc. And the people that benefit from it should contribute to it. I just updated my membership. We've been, as I said, a little in arrears, taking care of the business. But everyone should make sure that they donate, buy a membership every year. And if they can donate more money, they should donate more money to the National Action Network, so that the National Action Network will have the funds to fly to St. Louis. It does cost money. Or the activities on Staten Island, or the assistance that they give to, like, the parents of the late Mr. Brown, etc., and other types of issues. And one final issue there, they had a lot of consultants or independent contractors. That's not unusual. A lot of businesses do that. They decided that those people were employees of workers that were there. That happens a lot. So I know in the information technology business, which I'm in, it was quite common. Microsoft got hung up for that. They had a lot of workers there that were contract workers, and Microsoft actually had control of these workers and had to pay the taxes. So that's not unusual. And Microsoft has very good accountants. Very good accountants. It happens all the time. But what the Times is doing is trying to do a cumulative assault on the National Action Network, and by extension, African Americans living in the city of New York. That's what the issue here is. It showed its true colors. But the Times has been known as a racist organ for many, many years. It's sort of like what happened over at National Public Radio. So these outfits are not what been characterized by the people over at Fox, saying that these quote-unquote liberal outfits. They're not. They were supporters of Hillary the Monster Clinton against our own Barack Obama, the then Senator Obama from Illinois, when he was running for president. So where the Times stands, unfortunately, however, for the Times, their readership is not what it used to be. I can remember as a child reading the Times. I think I had 4 or 5, maybe 3.5. Anyway, a long time ago. And the Times was a much more substantial newspaper at that time, with exception of its Cold War coverage. I can recall reading about the trial of the Rosenbergs that was still fresh in the news, so to speak, in the 50s. So thus the Times were Cold Warriors, and they were very slow to change with the coming of African Americans to their newsroom. And there's now an editor there, but that doesn't make very much difference at all. They still refuse to use the term African American as opposed to the term black, and that in itself is nothing but cultural chauvinism. And so Dr. Sharpton once again put on an elegant presentation today, and we are very proud of his presentation that he gave. And that is why we created this special program. We'll talk to you later on Thursday. Incidentally, President Obama will have a live news conference Thursday night. He'll speak to the nation about immigration and some of the things that he is doing administratively, which basically means certain people that meet the criteria will not be deported. They will pay taxes, etc., but they will still not be eligible to get federal funds for such things as medical care under the Affordable Care Act. They will, however, be using the various ERs around the nation that anyone can use, and the taxpayers are left with the bill. But they can, or whatever the situation may be, and many times they get these huge bills, and they pay these bills off, but it takes a very long time. It's sort of like Dr. Sharpton's taxes. The Republicans are claiming they are up in there. They've even come down to trivial things like not providing money for issuance of Social Security cards. Our solution for that is to use a virtual Social Security cards. In other words, once the person is assigned a number, they are assigned a number. They can memorize a number. They can get a virtual Social Security card. So an employer, when they do the check, they will pop up there. And as far as carrying something, well, they can just, as they'll say, print the thing out and have it with them and have their own Social Security card. It can be verified electronically. Nonetheless, that's to do it for us. On to Al Sharpton.
Good morning. I guess everybody. I'm going to address three things. One, that we are. You're going to have to turn the sound down a little louder. I know my voice resonates, but we don't have to do that. We are on high alert, both in Ferguson and Staten Island, on the grand juries. I have pledged to the mother and father of Michael Brown that I will be there with them when the decision is announced. As importantly, National Action Network and I have mobilized 25 cities that we released that will be going immediately to federal buildings to have vigils and nonviolent demonstrations to call upon the federal government that has already, through the Justice Department, said that it will investigate the Ferguson Police Department to, in fact, begin formal criminal investigation on Officer Darren Wilson. It is important that we have a clear and impartial proceeding, and it is clear that the family nor the community has the confidence in the local prosecutor. It is also the case here in New York with Staten Island of Eric Garner and his killing. It is very suspect to us that the grand juries in both cases appear to be improperly expanded to where it is about trying to prove or disprove the accused rather than to see if there's probable cause to go to trial. There is no reason that these both grand juries are taking this long. You have a clear amount of witnesses that have said in Ferguson that Mr. Brown's hands was up and he was killed. You have conflict by the policeman. That should lead, therefore, to trial. Clearly, they cannot try who they think is innocent or guilty in a grand jury. That is not the proper use. In New York, you have a videotape of the choking of Eric Garner, and you have the medical examiner that has said that that was the cause of death. The policeman has a right to give his side, but the jury does not decide his guilt or innocence. Clearly, the videotape and the medical examiner is the basis to go with probable cause to trial. So we are prepared to continue to mobilize. We are calling for everyone to act in a strategic, disciplined, nonviolent way. But do not, and I repeat, do not allow either decision to feel that the case is over. I also must say how disappointing it is to hear the governor of Missouri lecture the demonstrators and not deal with the provoking and the outright misbehavior of some of the police in the matter. Policemen that are wearing armbands on duty that have supported the officer. Policemen that have been tear gassing people that have committed no act that would require that. The imbalance of the governor is particularly troubling. Let me also say on a third item, on this New York Times story this morning, I think that, first of all, the story is at best misleading and totally out of context. National Action Network and I owe no current taxes. Since 2006, National Action Network has paid through the ADP its taxes on a weekly basis. Since 2008, I have paid my taxes personally on a quarterly basis to the federal government. We, at the same time, have, while remaining current on all taxes, paid on the agreed upon settlement with the federal government on pre-2008 claims. Now, those claims started when there was in 2007, a consultant group, Charlie King and others, began meeting with the federal government to deal with back payroll tax that I understand after my run for president and coming back that some were owed. They began meeting with the IRS. In the midst of that meeting, period, the federal government launched a criminal probe based on several allegations. Early one morning, the agents of the FBI and IRS went to 10 employees and or consultants of National Action Network, and it was all covered by y'all, and asked all kinds of questions around phantom employees, kickbacks, whether people were made to work in political campaigns, etc., in a criminal investigation. When there reaped no evidence there, these are grand jury subpoenas was issued for documents. They then zeroed back in on the negotiations that were going on already around the question of past payroll taxes. They then deemed that some people that we were paying as consultants or advisors should have been paid as employees and expanded the list in terms of payroll taxes owed. And after negotiations in 2009, there was a signed document that worked on a payment plan to pay off those taxes as they continue to increase penalties and interest. We have done what I think is the unexpected, impressive thing. We have paid our current taxes and my current ones while keeping up to date with the installments. What is interesting is that the headline in the story is Sharpton's rise as his unpaid taxes rise. What unpaid taxes rise? You're talking about the same taxes as you covered in 2009. And in fact, in Tuesday, July 22nd, 2008, when we announced, and this is a New York Times article, so I'm sure the New York Times can read the archives if I can get them. They announced that the criminal probe had been dropped. They had referred it to the Internal Revenue, and that we were working out a payment plan with the Internal Revenue, and we had collectively put up $1 million. So how do you put in a paper the original figure when you yourself covered we put in $1 million, which reduced the figures? And there was a payment plan. So if you thought we had not kept the payment plan, then why would they still be allowing us to be in business? And if you thought we weren't up to date with current taxes, then why wouldn't the payment plan or the installment plan have not been canceled and they stop us and freeze accounts and close offices? I think that it was what it was. And I'm not going to get into a back and forward with the Times or the Reporter. I also think the politics of it is very interesting. And let me also add that the payments has significantly reduced the original, starting with the $1 million that we put up collectively. Some applied to